Well, the big story, of course, continues to be asylum seekers. Continuing to cross America's southern border, pressure continues to build on New York City's shelter system, right? On Thursday, the City Council voted to reform the housing voucher program. So let's talk about this. Removing a rule that required people to wait 90 days in a shelter before they can apply for a voucher. Now, the income threshold, that makes people eligible for a voucher. That has also been lowered, and utilities will no longer be deducted from a voucher's value. So people on the verge of eviction will also now be able to apply for a voucher to help them stay in their apartments. All of this is an attempt to both reduce homelessness and help with the migrant influx. But this vote happened against the wishes of Mayor Eric Adams. He says what the City Council did could actually make things worse. So here to discuss that and more are Council members Pierina Sanchez and Deputy City Council Speaker Diana Ayala. They are going with me on the record. And Councilmember Sanchez here in the studio, and Deputy Council Speaker Ayala is joining us via Zoom. So good to have both of you with us on such an important topic. So I want to begin right now with those bills that we just mentioned. You both pushed for them. So Ms. Ayala, let me actually begin with you here, because do you anticipate this to actually help the city shelter system? How do you see this actually playing out?
Yeah. No, I think that what we are doing, and so proud to be working with Deputy Speaker Ayala, and as the chair of Housing and Buildings, I'm so proud that we are doing this, because what we are aiming to do is relieve pressure on the shelter system, right? We have 80,000 folks in our care. It's a historic high, and we have to make sure that folks are not just going there and staying there, which Deputy Speaker can tell you all about. 6 months, a year, 1 year, 2 years. Folks stay in the shelter system for way too long. So we have to move them through. And also, if we can prevent them from going in the first place, that's a win for New York. Sorry,
I called you Ms. Ayala, but I meant Ms. Sanchez. Ms. Ayala, let me bring you into this conversation now, right? Because Mayor Adams does not actually support the bills, right? He actually wanted something more narrow, only allowing families to avoid the 90-day waiting period. So he's raised a number of concerns here, including that anyone who stops paying rent for any reason can now get a voucher if they're below a certain income level, that this will actually create the need for a waiting list for vouchers and will add billions onto the backs of New York taxpayers. How do you address that?
It's poverty shaming. It's poverty shaming. Nobody wants to, to live in poverty and do that purposely to qualify for these services. I get the predicament that the mayor is in. This is a very difficult time for the administration, for the city, and I know that he and his team have been working around the clock to address this asylum-seeking issue, on top of an overwhelming number of folks that have been stuck and warehoused in city shelters for way too long. The intent of these bills is not to make it more difficult for the administration. We do have no intent of trying to break the bank, but quite frankly, on the contrary, we're trying to save money here, because it costs way more to house a family in shelter than it does to keep them, housed.
Okay, so let me, sorry to interrupt you here, but the mayor is also challenging, to your point, the city's right to shelter rule, right? He wants to now have the power to turn away adults, not families, with children when there's a lack of resources or capacity. As the deputy speaker here, what are your thoughts on that overall?
Well, my concern about that is that that pushback is specifically targeting singles and adult families, and the unintended consequence of that could be that we end up with a whole bunch of tent cities throughout the city. And again, I recognize, right, we're running out of places and spaces to put folks, which is why, we introduced and passed this package of bills, because we're trying to make it so that we're not only avoiding, the continuing growth of the population in shelter, but that we're moving folks out that we have the ability to move out because they do qualify, because they have resources.
So Ms. Sanchez, how would you then qualify or quantify how the mayor is handling this overall? Is there anything that you're actually agreeing with on what you're seeing play out?
Yeah, and I think that's such an important question, right? Because oftentimes we at the City Council, we pursue a policy, and then folks are like, oh, they're only doing this. They're only worried about expanding the HEPS voucher. That is absolutely not true. We are collaborating on loosening requirements and loosening regulations that's going to make it easy to build in the city of New York. The mayor has proposed City of Yes zoning text amendments. There's also zoning for carbon neutrality that is also seeking to lift caps and make it easier to build. We're trying to build more. I'm the chair of the Committee on Housing and Buildings.
Yeah.
I've been calling for $4 billion investment from the city of New York to build affordable housing each year, right? So we're trying to increase supply. We're trying to make it easier to build, all at the same time that we're tackling, that's the supply side.
Yeah.
This is the demand side. We're tackling this, helping folks to be able to afford their rents through accessing vouchers more
Right, and
easily.
that's all very important. But Ms. Ayala, the headline in the papers last week, and the conversation was council versus the mayor on this issue of asylum seekers. You guys were very outspoken, and in fact, the city council speaker, Adrienne Adams, who's usually in lockstep with the mayor, seemingly breaking away. So what are the conversations happening behind closed doors?
Yeah, I wouldn't say that the speaker's in lockstep with the mayor, but I think it's unfortunate that this is one of the situations that is creating this level of division. I think that this is an opportunity for us to work as co-equal partners in government, and and when that doesn't happen, it's the public that really suffers the consequences of that, right? We're trying to do our due diligence. This is what we get elected to do: is to look at these situations in a more holistic view, and to create policies that make sense and that will help, those New Yorkers that we pledge to help.
So what's the conversation now? The mayor's saying, well, I don't agree with this. Is there a possible veto here, or it's veto proof?
It's veto proof. I mean, that he still has, it's at his discretion. He can try to, to veto if he wishes to do that. I hope that it doesn't come to that, but I believe that we have a solid number of, commitments, and I think that we'll be fine.
So let me pivot quickly while we still have both of you to the budget talks right now, because that's another big aspect to all of this. Ms. Sanchez, the City Council Speaker, Adrienne Adams, says there's more money that the mayor is actually letting on to. How much money are we talking about, and where is it actually coming from?
Absolutely. So our estimates, we have genius, I consider them genius economists who work in the city council, who are also doing forecasting, thinking about what tax revenues are coming in, how are the hotel, tourism, what is happening to all the industries that are strong in the city of New York. And our estimates have us receiving about $1.5 billion more than the mayor's estimates. And we are lower than what the Independent Budget Office is estimating.
Mm-hmm.
We're estimating that the city's comeback from the COVID era economic weakness is going to be stronger. So we're all sort of looking at the numbers. We're coming to different conclusions historically. As you'll hear my colleagues say, the council has historically been more correct than incorrect. The administration is going to be more conservative. So we're going to push, and we're going to push for the social safety net programs in the city of New York to continue to serve our folks, because that's how we come back from this. That's our starting position for the most part.
And negotiations are ongoing, as they always are. It's a roller coaster of a ride. Both of you stay in touch on these important topics, okay?
Thank you.
Great.